Ruchem Abon B'Shem Hashem B'Shem Irgin Shir I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Harav Yaakov Zas Mishli Tandine Hallel B'Leil HaSeder Leilei HaSeder, the Hallel on Pesach night. Chatzos is sponsoring a shir called Irgin Shir 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Today's shir is learned Leila Nishmas of Maariv, Rav Yitzchak Isaac, Bram Shlomo Zalman, Halav Shalom, Rani Kaparas Mishkovich, and Shmos Tzur Tzarachaim. Rav Smith.
Over the years, we collected a number of shilas about the Halel that we say by the Leilei Seder. Mashla Nashim, Mechuyev to say the Halel. Are you supposed to hold the kais when you say the Halel? Do you have to make a save? And we'll see a host of other questions. And the common denominator, really, it boils down to the simple question: Baruch Hashem, Yidden HaZoicha to say Halel on every Rosh Chodesh and every Yomtov. So Halel is not new to us, and the question is the Leil say the Halel a different nature? Because if it's l'chayra like the rest of the Halel, so look at Siman Tav Chav Beis, where you learn Hilchas Halel and apply it to the Leil Seder. But the emes is that it's not likely that it's the regular Halel that we say on a Yom Tov or a Chodesh. There are so many obvious chilukim. I mean, just that alone. The Gemara learns from a pasuk, Gemara Megillah learns from a pasuk that Halel could only be said by day, not at night. Mizach shemesh ad mevoyoy, and Halel Leil Seder is punkt fakir. It's dafka at night. Well, soon so you can't say it after Alois. Plus Halel Shalem, all of Klal Yisrael makes a bracha on it. The Chatzi Halel is different minhagim, but on a Gans Halel we all make a bracha. And it comes to the Leil Seder, when we do say the Gans Halel in different parts, we don't make a bracha. Also, you're not supposed to be mafsik during a regular Halel. In fact, Halel has a halacha like Birchas Krishma. And yet by the Halel Leil Seder, not only we have mafsik, we have a suda in between, we make it into two parts. So the question is, it seems l'chor that the Halel Leil Seder is different than the Halel from a Gans Yor. So the question is, Manashtana, I guess we could use that term, what's the chiluk? And why taka is it so different than the regular halal? So the emes is every halacha we have to do right, because don't forget, halacha is the Dvar Hashem, and every nuance is important. But this halal, I think, has a special importance. The Gemara in bracha is perhaps in a different context, but the Gemara says that if you'd base klali shel davar hakol hoylech acha achitum. Everything goes by the way it's ended. The siyum is always very important. No, there's no doubt that the big part of the siyum of the Leil Seder is the Halel. The Halel, the Nishmas, they are different. The Hallel Hagodol, Birchas Ashir. And that package is really very important. So obviously it has to be done right. But the truth is, I just want to make a point, there's probably no other night like the Leil Seder, that so much koiches goes into it, so much time, so much effort, damam tarti mashma. Maybe a Leil Chasen is more, but there's no other night of the year that so much koiches goes into it. So we have to do our best to make sure that it's done right. So the emes is like every shal that we have, we look to the shirish of the Inyan, you see a better picture of what the sugya is. The shirish of Halel in Leil Seder is the Mishnah in Psachim Daf Tzadik Hey, where the Mishnah says clearly when they brought the Korban Pesach, they had to say a Halel, but it wasn't stam a Halel. You look at the Navi, you look at the pasuk that the Gemara brings in Daf Tzadik Hey Amud Beis. The Gemara quotes the pasuk in Yeshaya, the Periklam at pasuk Chavtes, speaking about the long-awaited Geula. You know, imagine the Geula comes, Mi'at Hashem B'Karv. How are we going to sing? How are we going to express our simcha when the Geula is finally here? So the Navi says, "Davanifla ma'oid ma'oid." Zokti pasuk Hashir Yia Lachem Kalei Liskadesh Chag Pilaplayim. First of all, the pasuk uses the word shir, not halal. We'll soon see the significance of that. But the gezang, what we sing on Leil Seder, we sing by the Geula, will be like we sing by Leil Seder. That means the Navi could not find a greater expression of simcha than the Leil Kaddish Chag, than what we sing by the Halel, by the Seder. So if you're looking for a mashal of the ultimate simcha, it's the Leilis Kaddish Chag. So obviously, there's a lot to the Hallel that we have to try to understand. What is it? But it's really a little more to it. In the yeshiva world, there's an expression, Merapsen Igra. You have a kasha, if someone's writes, Merapsen Igra, what does Merapsen Igra literally mean? It means that the roof caves in. You pull the roof down. Where does that lashon come from? So this is another sugya regarding the Hallel Leil Seder. And this 10 blot early, Psachim Pei Hamid Beis, when they had the Leil Seder with the Kazayas Pesach, the Korban Pesach, God, they didn't have too much, the Gemara says. But Lamaisa, the Hallel of Hallel of the Gemara, Paka Igra. So Rashi explains that there was so much energy, there was so much simcha when they said the Hallel Leil Seder, that was Merapsen Igra. The roof caved in. So if you're looking for a simcha, a mashal of a Hallel with great simcha like by the Geula, it's the Pesach Benayt Hallel. If you look at what's Merapsen Igra, Pesach Benayt Hallel. Obviously, there's more to this Hallel that we understand. So that's one, and we'll soon come back to that. There's another source of the Hallel Leil Seder, and that's the Yishalmi and Psachim Perik Tes, Mishnah Gimel. Another taichin on those words in Yeshaya, Hashir Lachem Kalelis Kadesh Chag, Zokti Yishalmi, and this you have to know the stories in Malachim Beis. Sancherev besieged Yerushalayim, and he was about to destroy it. It was Mamish Leil Seder, and he had his terrible mapala, and he had a Nes Nigla, and his army was destroyed. Zokti Yishalmi, the Hashir Lachem Kalelis Kadesh Chag is going on. The Shira Yidin said when Sancherev had his mapala, Zokti Yishalmi, that Nimtza Lamed Mimenu Mazeh Ton Halal Avzeh Ton Halal. So the Halal that we have to have in Tavshin Pei Hey, and every year for that matter, is like the Halal that they said when they were saved, Mimaves L'chaim. God also was Leil Seder in a most miraculous way. And we'll soon see a little more shaykhis between the Halal and the story of Sancherev. Now there's another source, Masech T'Soifrim, Perik Pchaf, Mishnah Tes. There are 18 days and Laila Echad and one night that we say Halel. So obviously we see a makar to say Halel at night. Okay, some say it's going on the shul and at home. Some say only on the Halel that we say at home. But all agree that even without a Korban Pesach, there's definitely a chiyuv to say Halel. And Taka, the Torah in Siman Tov Ayin Gimel, quotes Rishonim that not only we say Halel on Leil Seder, but there actually he holds two brachas. Now that's not our minhag, but there's no doubt about it. There is a makar neman for this chiyuv Halel. If you like Ramazim, I should mention that the Rabbeinu Ephraim in Parshas Boy, one of the Rishonim, finds a remez to the Halel that we say on Leil Seder in Parshas Boy. The pasuk is Leil Shimurim Hu Lashem Loitziam. Hu Lashem Loitziam is gematria Halel. So Lamaisa, we're very convinced that there's a chiyuv Halel with many makairis. Now the question is, Man nishtana hahal hazeh? Why is it so different, and how do we understand its nature as opposed to the Halel that we say on Yomtov? So a beautiful start, which is also halacha Lamaisa, is a Tosfos in Sukkah Daf Lamed Ches. Tosfos says a klal that Noshim are potter from Halel on Yomim Tovim. Why? Because since the Yomtiv, the Chiyuv Halel on the Yomtiv, on the Zman, no, it's a regular Zman Grama. So Noshim are definitely potter from the Halel on Yomtiv. Zok Tosfos, but the Halel Leilei Psachim, mashma from Psachim, that they're mechuyev. Now why in Noshim punkt chayev in Leil Seder, Halel? Shani hal de Pesach dala nesbo. What does he mean? Beautiful. The Hal that we say on regular Yom Tiv is Zman Grama, it's said on the day. But the Halal Leil Seder is on the Nes, and what we'll soon see what Tosfos means, that since everybody is supposed to feel Kilu Yotza Mi Mitzrayim, so he or she went out of Mitzrayim. No. If you went out of Mitzrayim, Afhein Haya Bois Hanes, as I state in Tosfos. That's one lead, but I'll tell you a better indication of what the Halal is. We know that on a regular Halal, we always make a bracha. Ashkenaz, okay, some don't say on a Chatzial, but on a Halal Shalom, we zicha make a bracha. Frag the Rabbeinu Haigoin, and the Ran Psachim, the Avkuf Yud Ches quotes it, why don't we say Hallel Seder? So he says, like a Medrash Pliya, that since the Nusach is the Kriyas Hallel, so a regular Yomtov, we have a Kriyas Hallel. But on Pesach, Ein Anu Koirina Isei B'Torah's Kriya, Ela B'Torah's Oim Shira. That's Tvei Dinim. There's Kriya and the Shira. What does that mean? So rather, he's Zichar referring to the pasuk, Hashir Yeh Lochem Kaleil His Kadesh Chag. The pasuk identifies the Hal as a Shira. But Hagufa, what's the Chilagi? A different word? But Rabbi say, Shimu Suchi Nafshechem, what I think is the Clarkite of the Toisvis, Rabbeinu Haigoin, and Bemas, I could say it's the Clarkite of Leil Seder. It's probably the most important part of the Seder. And this shtickle Eimik Bracha, Talmud of the Brisker Rav, it's Amud Ayin Ches. It's kedai to see it every single year, because if you understand what he's saying, it's Dvarim Pshutim, Lahalacha, and that's the theme of Pesach by night. He quotes from the Shlah and other Kadmoinim, Paiskim Kadmoinim, that wonder about the nusach that we say, V'noima lefonav shira chadosha. So the Shlah asks, why v'noima lashon of osid? It should say that they said in Mitzrayim a shira. But why v'noima we will say? Why lashon osid? And also, we don't say a new shir every single year. What's a lashon chadosha? And some changed in the nusach, and they say v'nemar. But l'maisa, he says he looks in the old Haggadahs, you see the nusach v'noima lefon of shir chadosha. So he says a pshat, a lichtig pshat, that really makes the whole sugya very clear. And the beer, he says that the Halel on Leil Seder is fundamentally different than the Halel that we say the whole year. A real manishtana. Because the Hallel on Chanukah, and I must mention his Grace Rebbe, the Brisker Rav, the Grizal Rambam, in Perik Gimel Halacha Zayin, has the exact same Yisoid, that's probably where we got it from, and he develops it even more, Ayin Sham. But Zok to Eimik Bracha, that the regular Hallel that we say on Chanukah is we saying on a nest that happened, and we're talking about the nest that happened then, by Yomim Oheim. For Omra B'Seinu, the nest that we say, the Chanukah, or on a Yomtiv, on the Yomtiv. But Hallel Lele Pesach is not just a nest for B'Seinu, but it's a nest for us. Because the Mishnah in Psachim, it's Gepaskin Shulchan Aruch, and we say it by the Agadah, in Kuf Tazayin and Bedeis, B'chol dar v'dar chayiv adam lireis es atzmai kihilu hu yatsa mi Mitzrayim. And the Mishnah quotes the pasuk v'oisanu ha'itzianu misham. The Rambam, he says, quotes laharais esatz. We have to to prove yourself and make it real to yourself that you left Mitzrayim. And the Rambam concludes as a charta ki eved ha'yisa kloima kilu ata ba'atzma were an eved that went out. So then he says Pesach by night, if I could put it very bluntly, is not the Halel of by Yomim Oheim, what happened on Chanukah, or what happened by the Yomtov of Shuas. It's Bazman Hazeh. We start at the bracha, and Fikach Anachnu Chayovim Lahoidais. It's not just them, it's not just Yitzias Mitzrayim, it's me and you. I have a personal chiyuv. And therefore we could say B'noima Lefonav today, Tavshin Pehei, Shira Chadosha. Because since I went out of Mitzrayim this year, last year, and the year before, but each year it's a new Yitziyah with a new Halal. And it's very Meduik Deloshin, B'noima Shira Chadosha. Now the emes is, this as we know is a chiyuv. There's a chiyuv, chayiv, l'risis atzmai. One heard from an Adam Gadol, he said he thinks that's why we don't make a bracha on the Haggadah. Because the ikk of the Haggadah is to come to that realization, Kilu Yatsa Mitzrayim. And you might not do it right. So you can't make a bracha. But the emes is, it's not so hard with a little foresight to make to us to be Makayim Din HaMishnah. You know, there are Yidden, unfortunately not too many Yidden alive today that could tell us, but Yidden that lived 5-6 years in the death camps in Mamish, went through Gates Salmoves, and every day they woke up surprised to be alive. Another day, And one day, all of a sudden, they woke up in the morning, like a regular morning, and there were no Nazis. The Nazis ran away. A while later, either the American troops or the Russian army marched into the camps, and they were bafraying. They were bafraying, a liberation. They went from Maves to Chaim in a mamish in a moment. They had to take them a long time. They should realize that this is real. But Yidden that went through 5-6 years in Gehenna, the bafraying, that word bafraying, it sends a shudder down the spine. Now, even if you didn't go through yourself, but if you had the parents or grandparents, it was mamash, you could feel the yitzia in a moment. No, those that heard about the bafraying could relate to Yitzias Mitzrayim. Okay, Mitzrayim was a longer time ago, but we know what it means about Bafrayim. Or someone had a tzara, someone had a machla, someone had I always give this mashal for Bacham because they can't relate to a Bafrayim. He had to have a wisdom tooth removed. So the doctor's drilling and cutting, and if I say, okay, you're done. I'm done. Show I'm done. But all of a sudden it's over. And then a few weeks later he gets back to normal. So in my house, what we do is before we say Chayiv Kolad Mirisasat, which I did in Mishnah, I tell my family, think about something that was difficult, close your eyes and think about it, like it's going on, and all of a sudden it stopped. And then you could come a little bit to understand what it means, Chayiv Kol Echad Lirisasatzmai. But what's interesting is, look at the sequence. After Lirisasatzmai, we say, Lo yasavaseinu, As Hashem li b'tzeisi mi Mitzrayim, Lo yasavaseinu b'vad al avaisanu. And then lefikach anachnu chayav, me and you chayavim l'hoydus l'halel. And then v'noim lefonov shira chadosha. It's a beautiful, again, a sequence that one step brings to the other. So oy bazoi, if the Hallel on Leil Seder is bazman hazeh, it's me on Tavshin Pei Aleph, then it's a shira. It's not a kriya that we do every year on Shavuos or Sukkos, which is wonderful, don't get me wrong. But when it's my Hatzalah, then the neshama is platzing, is bursting forth with shira. Imagine someone wins the Powerball. So does he think of making a bracha? He just when it comes out where he just platzes. This is why right after we feel that feeling, we say what's called Hala Mitzri. What's Hala Mitzri? The first two kapitach of Halel that we say in the first part of the Seder night. It's unbelievable. We say what we are experiencing. B'tzeis Yisrael mi Mitzrayim. Some people have a minute, they dance around the table and they carry something as if they're leaving right now. But Adam Nifa Kafi Pula Isav, the more we could recreate Asher Galonu V'Gal Avoiseinu. Remember that the nusach we say in the bracha before the second kais, we take the liberty to say Asher Galonu V'Gal Avoiseinu. And then the Halal will be a Merapsa Nigrataka. Because the Maisa, if it's my Atzola, again, whatever tzara that you could try to picture, but it ended, that was the Nes that they experienced then. So therefore we can understand how one step of the Agada leads to the other. We try to do the Chiyuv, and then it carries one to the other. So again, to put it simply, the regular Hallel that we say is by Yom Mohaim. It's the Chanukah Nes, it's the Kabbalah Satoira. But the Leil Seder is Bazman Hazeh. Asher Yia Lochem. Maybe we could say B'derech Drush. But it just happened in Tavshin Pei. Now, once you understand this, you understand why the Halal is divided. Because there are two different parts of the Halal. The Halal Mitzri we say right after we in Tavshin Pei left Mitzrayim. Halu Abdi Hashem. We are now Abdi Hashem. Anuya Avodas Hashem. B'tei Yisrael mi Mitzrayim. That's the Merapsin Igra of Yitzias Mitzrayim. But then we say the second half of the Halel is all about Shevach Vaydah. It's all about the Gula Asida. It's loaded with Shira. We have the Halel, Hal HaGadol, Birchas Shir, Zok Levush, and Siman Tov Pei. That's the two parts of the Halel. Each one is said in the appropriate time. The Halal HaMitzi we say after Yitzias Mitzrayim, and the Shevach Vaydah is the climax, is the Chitum of the Haggadah and of the Leil Seder. This is why we can understand ma nishtana hal hazeh mikol different halals, because this halal is really to me, about me on this night, and that's why a regular halal you're not going to be mafsik. It has to be one package. It has to be a halal sholem. But this Leil Seder is two different parts of the halal with two different intentions. In fact, the Ramah in the end of Siman Tov Pei quotes the Rambam that a person could start off the Seder in his own house and he could finish Halel by the Rebbe. Sometimes people go to the Rebbe or go to someone else's family. Not only you have a hefsik, but shini mokai. And Taka the Raiva takes a strong exception to the Rambam. You have to finish the Halel, the whole Halel in one house. You can't change location. But we paskin like the Ramah, like the Rambam. You could say the end of the Seder in a different place, because again, it's not the regular Halel that we're saying agansya. So with this in mind, we could go to the various halachas, and you'll see Taka how beautiful it is, how every bit of the halacha really fits in beautifully. First, I should mention, it's clear that even during the Halel, if you have time, you could say Divrei Torah, even in the middle of a perik, because there's no din of hefsek regarding this Halel. Now, the truth is, we're late enough as it is, so maybe we don't want to start a new minig, but the poskim say you're allowed to say pshatim or taichin during the actual Halel itself. Now we understand also ma nishtana, why is no bracha said on this halal? Every other halal sholem has a bracha. So the emphasis, this is Rav Haigoin that we mentioned. Rav Haigoin explains that the halal is said likroyas a halal, but on Pesach by night it's not a kriya, it's a shir. So that's why it's posh. Now you might ask, so let's change to the nusach and say lo shir is a halal. Okay, the teretz is Shira doesn't have a bracha. Shira is an expression a person bursts forth spontaneously. But Lamaisa Halel has a bracha, but not Shira. That's probably another pashta teretz. Other reasons, people, the Taisus and brachas, Afiyadalit explains why there's no bracha on Halel, because Lamaisa were mafsik. Now, you're allowed to be mafsik, but we have a suda in between, so you can't make a bracha and then built into the Halel, you're going to be mafsik with a suda. Some say the Halel that we say in shul Pesach by night carries over for the Halel we say by the Seder. If your minhagim is saying bracha and Halel in shul, make sure to have in mind by the bracha in Maariv to be moitzi, to be yoitza the Halel they say at home. Some say the lefikach bracha is a bracha on the Halel, but the kasha is not so intimidating. The Maisa Halel on Pesach night is different. It's not a kriya, it's a shira. The next manishtana is, what is the status of the Halel that we say Leil Seder? So a lot has been written, it's machlokes rishonim, but we could say that there are gedolei rishonim that hold that the Halel we say on Yomtov is only midrabanan. Again, there are different rishonim, different poskim, but the Bahag holds it's the Raisa, the Rambam Sefer Mitzvah holds it's the Rabbanan, but yet you'll find a Dava Pella. There are a number of poskim that hold that Leil Seder of all Halel is a deraisa. How you talking? A regular Halel we say with the bracha without a hefsek is the Rabbanan. And Pesach by night it's a new type of Halel with a hefsek with two parts, and we'll soon see we sit and we say it at night. Only that's a deraisa. So I saw in the wonderful Sefer Seder Ha'orach, he quotes from earlier sources, it's mamish the same yisoid. If the Halel on Pesach is my nes, my hatzola, my yitzia, that we find on a person's personal hatzola, there's a chiyuv hal deraisa. Well, Suti Techam Soifa says another chiddush based on this understanding that Pesach by night it's my hatzola. Oh, that taka is pashit. More than on a Yomtiv is on the Yom is I was saved mimavas l'chayim. And there's a beautiful discussion in the Mishnah Siyayvetz in Siman Yotches, Siman Yotes, but he learns from a different angle since the Halal is part of CPCS Mitzrayim, and that taka we know that the importance of that. So that's why Lamaisa the minig is that we don't make a bracha. We understand why, but it's part of the. We do see it's part of the Halal could be potentially a mitzvah deraisa, just like CPCS Mitzrayim. The next important manishtana, negate probably half of Klal Yisrael, is our Noshim Chayiv in this Hallel. Now the Hallel is challenging because the first half of Hallel we say right before Shulchan Aruch and the Noshim go into the kitchen, prepare the Suda. The second Hallel we say at the end, they're busy putting the children to sleep. But the emphasis that has to be corrected. Because here we see that although Noshim are potter from the regular Hallel of Agans Yor, Toisvis in Sukkah says the Noshim Mechuyavos in Hallel Seder. Why? Maybe we could say a little bit with Derech Drush. Like we said, it's this that we're saying Halel in Tafshin Pei Kilu Yotza Mi Mitzrayim. Just like Eden then said Halel on Noshim V'Taf, so do we say Halel on the same nest that we recreated on Pesach by night. And Taka, it's found in Shulchan Aruch Taf Ayin Beis Sif Yudal. The Taisis, the Shulchan doesn't say Beferish, but it's Noshim V'Chavas on Dalet Koises, and all the mitzvah nehagas balayla. But Mr. Bura does spell it out in Taf Ayin Tes Sif Kot and Tes that will soon see a Chiddush Pella, but that regarding that the Halel, the Noshim, not only a Chayiv and Halel, they could lead the Halel, they could be the Mezamein of the Halel. But no doubt about it, Noshim are mechuyavos in Halel like a Noshim. So, Fakert, you have to be a good husband, call on the wife to say Halel before the Shulchan Aruch, and they say Halel at the end. If they're very tired, they can't just drink a fourth kais and go to sleep. They should stick in the Halel in between the third kais and fourth kais. The Tzlachin is Droshes. Lamed Zayin Lamed reminds us, make sure the Noshim say Halel in between the kaises. It has to have a Shem kais Revi'i. There has to be Halel in between the third and the fourth kais. A big Chiddush, the Chavadas in Chelik Heisim and Lamed Dalet, he says it's Mistav and Noshim Acham and the Halel of Leil Pesach that we say in Maariv. Because Rivite, it's the same nature. Okay, there's a little bit of Chiddush because they're not Mechuyavos and Maariv, so they can Mechayiv and Halel. But one thing I did see, the Torah's Refoil, that's the Shver of Chaim Salvechik, in Siman Ayin Hey, he has a dig from a Toisis that on the first day of Pesach, by day, Noshim should say Halel. The same svar of Afein Oye Sanes, and he's like from a Tois that says that Noshim are potter from the other Halel and does not mention the Halel of Pesach by day. Okay, Lamai says a Chiddush, and that's stickle. He also says that his famous Chiddush that Noshim should say Halel on the days of Chanukah, because we write the Halel is Afeinoi Baisanes. It should be the same for Noshim also. Okay, Yashcholkin, but no doubt about it, all agree the Halel Leil Seder by the Seder. Noshim have the exact same chiv like Anoshim. They should make sure to say the first part and the second part. If not, since Noshim are mechuyevas like a Noshim, it makes sense that we could say Ketanim and Ketanois Higil Lechinach should be told to say Halel. The Rav Shulchan Aruch makes a point of spelling it out in Taf Ayin Beis Sif Chafei. Af Ketanim Chayichayiv Aviyam Lechancham B'Mitzvahs V'af HaKetanois are mechuyevas, and the Svar is Pashit. Just like there's no difference between Anoshim and Noshim regarding Bar Chiyuva, who are then regarding Chiyav. A different manishtana we hope should never be negeya, but you see mamash how the Poskim took this Yisoid literally. An oinen typically is part of our mitzvahs, but Rachmano's son, if someone's lift, let's say this coming Shabbos, so there's no kfura Shabbos or Sunday, so the avelim are really not oinenim because there's no opportunity of kfura, so they do mitzvahs, they do regular mitzvahs. The shaila is Mitzvah Shabbos by the Seder night. They're still an oyin officially, but there's no dinaninus. So they daven and they do the mitzvahs. Do they say Halel Leil Seder? It's a very shver shaila, because during Shiva there's no Halel said in the base oval, even though there's a chiv Halel that's in Rosh Chodesh. The oval does not say Halel. So how are they going to say Halel if they're oining him? But Zok the Chok Yaakov and Taf Pei Siv Beis, and since the Rav Shulchan Aruch and Taf Ayin Beis devotes a whole Siv quoting this Chok Yaakov, not based on Rishonim or Shulchan Aruch, that the Halel Leil Seder, even an Oinen is chayiv to say. Why? Shemechuyev Loim Ashira Ala Geula. The pshat is it's not a Bayom Mehem the Kahal, it's Bazman Hazem. And if he's leaving Mitzrayim tonight, he has a personal chiv of Halel, even though he is an oinen. The next group of shilas is the right zman for Halel. So it's interesting, the Gemara in Megillah Daf Chaf Amud Beis learns from Psukim that Halel can only be said by day. Mimizach shemesh ad mevoyoy, that's the zman Halel, not at night. Or Zeh hayoim osa Hashem, Halel can only be said by day, not at night. And it's interesting, the Marsham has an interesting shuva where there was a shas at Chagdol, and people had davened shachris early on Sukkot. There was not enough love, whatever the story was. They call it terach's minyan, but there was a tzibah that davened before nets. So the Marsham remind them, if you have to daven very early, that's up to you, but don't say Halel before alois, before nets actually, because don't forget the Mishnah says that the zman is nets, alois nets, whatever it is. So basically, by the regular Halel is only by day, mamish, not a minute earlier. And here we see of an hapachu. When it comes to the Leil Seder, it's dafka at night. Manishtana. So for us, it's Mosik Midvash. The Halel that said a whole year is a kriya. That's the psukim, dafka by day. But the Halel of Pesach is, of Neshama is bursting with Halel that we left Mitzrayim. You don't push it off till tomorrow. Yidden said Shira when they left Mitzrayim, and we say Shira at night as well. It's up to Turiyevin and Megillah Yudalid, and the Chassam Soif is even a bigger pel. It's the same Yisoid in Archaim Simon and Aleph, Demaschel Uva El Yerabba. It was a Rav that traveled, that came from, traveled by boat, and it wasn't like today. It was a very dangerous trip. And he came back home at night, and the whole tzibah was waiting to greet him. He covered the Torah, and the Rav was so full of emotion. He said Goimel at night, and they started talking about him. Rav, don't you know you say Shira only by day, not at night? So he wrote to Chassam Soifa. Soifa says what you did was correct, because the din of saying Shira by day, Halel by day, is regular Halel. But just like the Halel we say Pesach by night, Hashir Yiyah Lachem Kaleil is Kadesh Chag. It's dafka at night. Why? What's the pshat? Zok Chassam Soifa, because that's when your nest happened. So too Shas Nisa, you Rav, you said your Goimel at night. Good Keton. But the Chassam Soifa is explaining why is the Halel at night. Pesach by night is a different din. It's not the din of Kriya, it's a din in Shira. Yashir Yilachem Kaleil is Kadesh Chag. So that's why if someone has a very long Seder, make sure to finish Halel at least before Alois HaShacha. That at least has to be done. Now Lamaisa, this Negeya and a different halacha also, and that is the Ramah based on an earlier source, Ramon Tov Ayin Zayin Aleph, where the Shulchan Aruch says not to eat afikoyim after chatzos. So the Ramon adds v'yagdim atzmai shagam halal yikra koydem chatzos. His makar is the Ran and Megillah and Psachim, two places. In other words, you have to try to finish till the fourth kais before chatzos. Now, for some people, Afikoyim is a challenge, but this is really getting challenging to finish Kamat the whole Haggadah. Now, Lamaisa, the question is, why do we say that? Fakert, we know that it's until Alois Zman is. So Zoktiran, if you hold that the Afikoyim is for a whole night, then Halel is also all night. But since we paskin, you have to finish Afikoyim by Chatzos, Hu Adin, Halel as well. Now, Lamaisa, most people do not fear Zechazoi, and there are plenty of Makilim. Tois Megillah Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis the Machla Suyeh. He says even if you're makbid by afikoyim because it's a suffix deraisa, some say that's the deraisa, but Halel is only midrabanan. So it's interesting. Tois is whole is derabanan, not deraisa, and that's why he's makel regarding saying it before chatzos. Now the Maisa, the bigger chiddush is the Goyin in Maisa Rav in Kuf Sadik Aleph. He says he was makbid to afikoyim before chatzos. But Halel, he was not makbid. That's interesting. If you look in the Bir Hagra, he seems to explain the minig of the Ramah to finish by chatzos, which is Kedar Kei B'Kodesh. The Bir Hagra is explained Shulchan Aruch. Ma'aser Rav, that was his Hanhaga, but he explained the Shulchan Aruch. But Lamaisa, the Goyin, the Aruch HaShulchan, and Taf Ayin Zayin Dalet, his Eini Yedei Tamlazeh. Why do you have to rush to this, the Haggadah, the Hallel? Now, Lamaisa, there is a reason for it, but he says, Lamaisa, there's no reason to be machmer. There are those that are choishes, the Levush, the Rav, the Pri Megadim, Mr. Brewer quotes it also, Chayodam. So there are Yidden that still do it. The Chaim Besichsam Soif, I think, was makbid. The Chaim Briscoe Zicha was makbid. But one thing I'll say, the Buchacha, in the end of Taf Ayin Zayin, he says, if you could make chatzos, finishing Halel for chatzos, Hallel and bracha, but don't rush either the Agadah or the Suda. Now, don't rush the Agadah. I understand it's a once-a-year opportunity, twice-a-year opportunity that we have infuse our children with the Amunah, with the night that is so full of Amunah. You're going to rush it. It's almost like Atiyat Tzadik Harba. Afikoyim, you have no choice. That's the halacha. But to rush for the Halal for only a Chumrah, and then he has also, don't rush the Suda, the Shulchan Aruch. So Pasha, his reason is al Simchas Yomtov. There's a mitzvah Simchas Yomtov. Probably the reason also is that the Nashim Tzidkani spend so much time preparing the Suda, and what he's saying, okay, we're not having a Suda tonight, put it away for next year. It's very depressing. So whether it's B'nam Chaver, B'nam Namokaim, Lamaisa, the B'chach says, if you could do it, good, but not to rush either the Seder or the Shulchan Aruch. The last group of questions is the actual saying of the Hallel. So one thing is, we see Midin HaGemara, Midin HaPosik, it should be an extraordinary Hallel. Even though a person is ready, might be holding by part of Hallel, by, the Achet Chatfen Shina, so wake up. But this is the Hallel that is supposed to be Merapsa Nigra. This is the Hallel that the Geula will be like that Hallel. So no doubt about it, it has to be with a Simcha Gedola, Merapsa Nigra. The energy has to be there. Now, the Chsam Soifa, there's Einuka writes in his Agoda that he remembers by the Zayder Chsam Soifa, you could hear the Chsam Soifa's Hallel from blocks away. Mimerchakim. So state in the Chsam Soifa's Agoda. So the Ik, of course, is the Neimus, the Marsha, in Psachim, beginning of Pei Vav. He says, Merapsin Igra, in the Gemara over there, the Paka Igra means it would broke all the Shi'orim that lead up to our tefillas to Shemayim. So it's a night of tremendous opportunity, and it's a way we could experience Nuraim Mishmo Yachtov. So if a person is tired, so remember Kol HaChachitum and Amayachshav Eimasai, and make it a Merapsin Igra. Now the next question is an interesting question because it has to be addressed, and that is, should we say Hallel sitting or standing? So the emphasis is, it's the old Shaila, because in Halacha you see that we stand by Shemay Esrei. Why? Obviously it's more covered to stand. But then again we see Kamara Pasuk in the Torah that sitting is more kavanah. Now I know many shul, especially this shul, they stand for davening, but Tosfos says in Brachas Nun Aleph Amud Beis that why does the Gemara say you're supposed to sit by benching? So Tosfos, because since benching is the Raisa, and there's more kavanah when you sit, you're more meyushiv. In fact, Tosfos says it's a pasuk you have to sit by benching. V'achalta, v'savata is a contraction of two words. Savata is shev eis, time to sit. So obviously, when a person stands, he's showing kavod, like Shemon Esrei. When a person sits, it's more kavanah. Now, it's not exeris hakos, if someone feels more kavanah standing, because to hate. But that's the basic difference. So now we can understand why we find in Shulchan Aruch Tav Chav Beis Siv Zayin that when we say Hallel, we stand. Ha'oindim Beveis Hashem. You say Shevach, it's a covet for the Hallel to stand. But now we come to another Manishtana. So why is that the minig Kemat B'chol Tfutzas Yisrael that the Hallel that we say, Leil say, that we sit? So the simple pshat is, if it's part of the Agoda, it's part of Sipos Mitzrayim, which is also Heilige Mitzvah, we sit. But it could be a little more that it's a different gather. A Kriya Hal has to be standing. Shira could be sitting in the best position with the most Kavanah. Also, the Shibali Aleket in Kufay and Gimel, he seems to say that it's Derech Cheres, which means when a person feels that nobility, that royal feeling at night, so you sit. Now, Lamaisa, the fact that it enhances Kavana is another good reason to sit. But I must mention, which is Dvarim Pshutim, just like the Shlah writes this, it's quoted by the Berheit of Taf Ayin Gimel Chav Zayin, the Mishnah Berurah Sivkat Ayin Aleph, that avada by the seder, the Haggadah itself has to be said with gewaldige dveikis, but he says it has to be be'ema, and the Amiris Hal ein leishav muta ela be'ema v'yira. In other words, the haseba is by the mitzvahs halayla, by the Shulchan Aruch if you could do it, but not by Haggadah. That has to be be'ema v'yira. Chak Yankov also quotes the lashon of the Shla. No, oibazoi, it's pashut that the Haggadah also, even though it's sitting, it shouldn't be with our haseba. And the Shabur used a little of a tricky lashon in Taf Pei Sif Katan Aleph. Oimem halam yoshiv after b'chol hashana oimem umid Pesach shani mipnei shemiyoshivu derech haseba v'cheirus. Now derech cheirus I understand. Again, a sign of nobility. You're sitting, you're not standing. But as lashon haseba is pashut does not mean haseba ongolain like we do by the chilas matzah. Haseba means when you're sitting in that position, it's more of a derech cheirus, the haseba of cheirus. So Lamaisa, it's clear, most people do sit, but not with the regular haseba. Another question of holding the kais. Do you have to hold the kais for the entire benching? So the emes is, both parts. So the emes is that we see in Hilchas Tefillah when you're holding something, it disturbs the kavanah. Not supposed to hold something during Shemoneh Esrei. So maybe taka, if there's no chiyuv to hold, maybe I shouldn't hold it, because again, it disturbs me. I'm thinking, I'm focusing on it. So the emes is that you can't cheat from regular halal because there's no kais by regular halal. But the lashon ein oimim shira el ala kais al yayin, maybe taka is a chiyuv to hold the kais, but it's lav dafka. Shira al yayin means when there's yayin lefanecha, just like we only say b'shah sheish matzah mor munachim lefanecha. Who said you have to actually hold it? So the emes is there are medaktigim that do hold the kais for the entire bracha, including the Halel and mitzvah you say afterwards, and who adin by the end of Halel, the bulk of Halel as well. It's not mefurish in Shulchan Aruch, although it's al hayayin, it's lav dafka, you have to hold it. And the Shulchan Aruch kishegia lelefikach magbia kol echad kais biyadei ad shechaisim gal Yisrael. Shulchan Aruch is a shtickle mashma that you hold the kais for the entire Halel as well, for that part of Halel as well. Lamaisa, there are mashmois, some other poiskim, they say that Yoim says v'ferish, the Achashulchan, Tafay Gimel, Yud Gimel, the Ritva and the Bira Agada says v'ferish, when you don't have to hold the kais for the Halal, when you say the bracha ashagalonu, then you hold the kais. So like everything else, Eilu v'Eilu diva le'kim chayim, we could say both minhagim have a source and halacha, but one thing we could say, if it's a din and shear, then Lamaisa, that the first half is more of a din of a shear than the second half. Second half is shear l'asud lavoi. So that's why some people maybe could hold the second kais, not the first kais, not the kais by the second part of halal, not the first part. So you'll see different minhagim, but those that sit by the entire halal, both the first part and the second part, avada and avada, that's the halacha lamaisa, like those minhagim. The ikki is to say it b'neimus u'b'simcha. The next halacha is based on a few words of the Shulchan Aruch in the end of Taf Ayin Tes. Mitzvah lachza achazimun. So we learn it pashut. You have to have a zimun. But mechatesa, every other yom you don't have to have a zimun. If you have three, good. It's nisht. But lamaisa it's apshan Ramah. If you look at the Torah, quoting the Medrash Chatoy, which the Ramah is based on, zimun means to say Halel b'zimun. In other words, when you say Halel at home, you read it from the beginning to the end. You say it from the beginning to the end. Halel in shul, there's a chazan that says one part. We say Hoy Lashem Kitoy, V'Yoymana Yisrael, On Hashem Mashiach, like a chorus. So Zok Mishtibura, when the Ramah says Lachza Achaziman, does not mean benching. That you could ask, it's a mile, but there's no mitzvah. Pesach by night, the Halel should be like in shul with a zimun. There's the Rosh Hashanah says, the family follows, just like we do in shul. Now, even that is not a chiyuv. It's only a mitzvah lachzor, like the ner by Havdalah. But lemaisa, if you have it, do it right. Some people don't know that. If you have three people, now Mr. Brewer says, topple the chiddush here. L'chatchila 3 gedolim, but you don't need 3 gedolim. You could have a wife and your child, 3 people. Kipshutai. That's also enough. In fact, the Mishnah Berurah there says that the Isha could also be the Mezamein. I know it's not done, it's definitely not the right thing. There's a problem of Kol Isha, but if she wants to say Hoyd Lashem Ki Tov without saying anything, without singing, it's not a problem. Now I should mention, Agav, for those that sing the Halal, the Nashim should not sing too loudly. Because Loimi Boy, if there are guests, there's a problem of Mamish of Kol B'Isha Erva. But even if there are no guests, Halal is a Davar Shebekadusha. And even I can hear the singing of my wife or daughter, because even though it's mutter to hear the singing regularly, but not during a Davar Shebekadusha. 3, so that's the minimum of Zimun. The Reim Shmayachtav is 3. It's the Reim Hajjus Melech is 3. But this is clearly that what we see, that the Halal should, l'chatchila, if you have 3 people, but make it that matzav. In fact, the Ramah then adds, the Gadol should be mechabed the cotton to be the mezamein. Why? Pashit, keep him awake. Or the chanchai. Okay, I don't think this is done, but it's not the regular, typical type of hal that we have, that you have the mezamein. It's only a mitzvah lahachzor achadat zimun. If for some reason someone doesn't have even 3 people, then he says the regular halal, like you do b'yechidus, without the hoidu repeating over and over. You just say the words from beginning till the end. This is important to mention, that the singing of the halal has a makor kodam oid, the Yalkut Shemoini and Shir Hashirim, Hashmieni as koilech b'halal, ki koilech orei b'hoid l'Hashem, umar noveh b'ona Hashem. So the minhag of Yidden to sing Halel throughout the Doros is based on an earlier source in Yalkut Shemoini. So that's really, especially Pesach by night, it's a Shira type of Halel. The more we sing and the more we feel that's vacant, the better off we are. There's an interesting halacha. I think the first one I mentioned it is the Sefer Yagid Moshe, similar to Lamanavsiv Cotton Dalid. And I saw the Shterberg also mentioned this, that we find Lechem Oini, lechem she'oinin olav dvarim harbe. You have to have matzah on the table, even if you're not eating it, just to show it. It should be on the table. Rashi on that Gemara, lechem she'oinin olav dvarim harbe, shegoimrim olav esa halel v'oimer olav hagoda. So Davar Pella. Rashi is saying that you have to have matzah on the table for the hagoda, like we know, and also for the halal. So it seems that you should have matzah on the table for the halal as well. Now, the first part of halal that we say, of course, is matzah on the table. But the second part of halal is after the table is cleaned off, after the Shulchan Aruch, it's possible there's no matzah on the table. So the question is, how come we don't see this minhag mentioned in earlier poskim? So he himself admits, Oilam ein izarim bazeh, and you have to know why. So some say, beautiful pshat, very dehoibin pshat, that since we still have the tam of afikoim in our mouths, so there's still some zeich of matzah. But lemaisa, I never understood the problem. I'm glad that the Yagid Moshe warns this. There's a loch in Shulchan Aruch and Siman Kuf Pei. You have to bench based on a Gemara. You have to bench with pas on the table. If you don't have pas on the table by benching, ein eroi Siman bracha. So Malach and Siman Kuf Pei. It's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. So you have pas, you have matzah on the table anyhow for benching. So why take it off? Now, he said you can't bring a whole matzah because it might be upset by the zor of Orchel Agod in Yeridea, Siman Kuf Pei. But it is matzah, so keep it there. So it's not such a real serious problem, but Lamaisa, it makes sense, it should be matzah, but I can't say it's a chiyuv. The chasima of Halel is another one of the manishtanas halal hazeh from all other Halel. Because Lamaisa, everybody says the same chasima on a regular halal. No, it's chatzi halal, so some don't make a bracha rishayna. But everybody has the regular chasima, melech mul batish bachais. When it comes to the Seder night, since it's a gans halal, we should have the same chasima. But yet, lemaisa, no one has the regular chasima of halal. Let me refresh your memory. For those that have nusach Ashkenaz, you say halal, you finish the halal, halalucha, but don't make a chasima. Then you start bombardiering, like they say. You come with the Hal Hagadol, with the Nishmas, that beautiful tefillah, that bircha shir like some Rishayim, then Makaloi Ziravois, and we say Yishtabach, and then you say Yishtabach with the Chasima. But there's no regular Chasima of Halal, the Nusach Ashkenaz. Okay. Nusach Svard is also different. They, like always, Halucha, No, there's no halalucha. You start Halel, you don't say halalucha, then you Hallel Hagadol, Nishmas, Yishtabach, without a chasima, and then you have the chasima. The real chasima is the chasima of Halel. So the Hal is very different. Man nishtan ala Hal hazeh. Teretz is pashut. This is lamaisa a different Halel. Now the emes the Rashbam in Pesachim Kuf Yud Ches has shitas that you say two chasimas, because lamaisa it's the regular. You have to have the regular chasima as well. But so we have some Rishonim hold you make two brachas Rishonis, and some say the regular chasimas. However, Tosfos there quotes Rabbeinu Chaim Akoyim that you don't say two chasimas, only one. Shulchan Aruch in Taf Pei Aleph quotes Nusach Svard, and the Mishnah Berurah quotes Nusach Ashkenaz with two variations of it. But what the point I think you have to realize is that Lamaisa, Pesach by night is more than just a regular Halal. It's the Halal of all Halals. It's the Leilis Kadesh Chag. Why do we add so much to the Halal? Why do we add Halal HaGadol, which the Gemara calls, what we say, Hoyd Lashem Ki Toiv, 26 times? I believe there's a message here. Because it's easy to say Halal when things are going right. But people have problems in life. And Pesach, we have to reach the Spitz Simcha. How do you have your own Yetzias Mitzrayim from that Meitzah that contains us? Think about Hallel HaGadol and who wrote Hallel HaGadol. David HaMelech wrote Hallel HaGadol. David HaMelech, Chazal tell us, there was no creation, there was no birya that had problem like David HaMelech. Even Eov was Lehoyev Lehnivra like some, but David's problems, amongst them his own son, his own father-in-law wanted to kill him. Yoisim Isaris Roishi, Oi Soinai Chinam, he says in Tillim. It's not Stam Gezokt, it's part of Tillim. David had Tzaras through his Koyamei Chayav. And yet he was able to see through all the Tsar, and able to see Hoidu Hashem Ki Toiv, Ki L'Olam Chazdai. Pesach by night, Yidden take Tamcha, Mora, and then we understand that Tamcha is really Rosh Hashanah, Tamid Misaprim Kevoid Keil. So we need that injection of this special extra simcha to connect to Hoyd Lashem Ki Toiv. And maybe that's why we add it. And then of course we add Nishmas, the spitz of all Shevach, and Yishtab, and then Sheichenad, Yishtabach, and only then can we say we're finished. A thing to remember, the Halal could have that Merapsin Igra if we realize Ki L'Olam Chazdai. Now I want to make another point, halachadik. The Lamaisa, the Torah does mention Nusach Ashkenaz and the Magen Avram and Taf Pei, Sif Cotton Beis quotes it. What's interesting is, it happens rather, more than when you believe it happens, sometimes someone comes to a Seder, and they give him an Agada, and he says it, and it's different than his Nusach. He already finished, let's say he said Ashkenaz, and he finished. Can he go back and say Nusach Svard? If he said the wrong Chasima, rather don't go back, because both are correct. What really could happen is, the Mishnah Berurah says, if you said your halucha first, like that minig, and you made a chasima. So fafalim, what can you do? Once you said it, you said it. So he said, in any mistake you make, if you said Nusach Ashkenaz or Svard, or you made a chasima in the wrong place, or you finished the Yishtabach, and you're supposed to finish the chasima of the halucha of the Halel, any mistake, l'maisi yoytz. And I want to leave with just a machshava. I saw in the Brisker Haggadah, it's page Reish Nun Ches, there's Acharichas HaSeder, the Brisker Rav, once a year the Brisker Rav danced, and that was after the Seder. Sas v'sameach al gulaseinu b'dus nafsheinu. The Brisker Rav obviously was not a big dancer, but once a year he went out Birkida with his children. Now, again, the halach is about dancing on Shabbos and Yomtov. I don't know if it was a chiluk on Pesach or regular Shabbos and Yomtov, but obviously, by him, it was Merapsin Igra. There was an experience of his own, Yitzias Mitzrayim. Maybe that's why he overlooked the Issa of dancing on Yomtov. But it was a gewaldige insight to me that a person could come to that level of Shira, of Ahava, of Tamar Sapin Kevoid Kael, that he pashet platzes from Simcha and he dances. And maybe that's the Pshat, Seif Maaseh Machshava Tchila. The Yerushalmi connects the Hallel Pesach by night to the Hallel of Sancherev. What's the shaykhis? Punkt that it happened Pesach by night. So if you know the story in Malachim Beis Perek Yud Ches, Sancherev had besieged, surrounding the Yerushalayim, and it was mamash achas das yolamis. But derech hateva, they were staring the Malachim Avos right in the face. And there was a renegade Yid, Rav Shokei, a terrible Mecharev from Megadev, who got up on the Choymas Yerushalayim of all places and said Chiruf and Gidov in the worst way. Chazal learned Hilchos Chiruf and Gidov from this Rav Shokei. Chazal said don't answer him, and Imamish was Mecharev from Megadev because Klal Yisrael were doomed. And he said, where's the Bayah? I don't want to say what he said, but Mamish, he spewed forth Chiruf and Gidov. No, and there was no hope. A moment later, Kamat, he goes to Sancherev at night, Pesach of night. He says, don't start up with Yidden because you're doomed. You're not going to win. Sancherev made his Chiruf and Gidov, I'm going to win. And that was the end of him. In a miraculous way, the whole army was destroyed. The question is, what changed in a few moments? One moment he's on Choymas Shalayim Mecharev Megadev. That's Erev Pesach. A few hours later, he was Moisen Nefesh to go to Sancherev and tell him not to fight Klal Yisrael. So Rabbi Tzal Zolti once said, you know what changed? He saw a Halel Yiddish Storim. He looked out and he saw Yidden were making a Seder. He saw Yidden were able to say Halel when they're staring the Malachim Avos in the face. And he realized the koyach of a Yiddish Emunah. He realized the koyach that Yidden were able to say Halel in the darkest moments. And that had a transformative effect, that it changed him. And how about a Yid that has a neshama that's on fire with Avos Hashem? How much more the Halel, how much more the Seder night could bring us to? We have to have an achana, like every other Dvar mitzvah. There's reason Magdim on the mitzvahs to prepare for the Halel, for the Leil Seder. It's the Leil, his Kadesh Chag, that even the Geula is compared to that. It's the one night of the year that so much koyches go into it. Let's make an achana kedeboy and be zoicha taka that kimei tzeis of Mitzrayim and on the flies from Herav Yameinu. Amen.
Shem Irgen Shirtar like a big Character Smith for today's share. Rabbi say every year the shul makes an appeal for my schitim for the mishpachas that I need for the Tzachei HaChag. It's under the auspices of the Rabbanim of the Kehillah. Please be mishtatev. If you can't mishtatev right now, you can call 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com and you can send a link to donate per credit card. Schrijf door van Kamer Gananje bij Akashim als er boven de zaak is, het is wel vier hem ter met zijn naam aan de gofes man ziet de jagdol ter jade. Gadol is gadol shmei rabba. Dan dat is allemaal goed te jassen kan ik haar misschien geven. Hij heeft met een heilige basis zo bij gadol maar kan hem al shmei rabba. Wat allemaal met mij van het nee, dan kan we gasten weer als dus was er dan was er meer bij allemaal mijn alles zo, dan moeten we met hem contameren, samen met hem komen los, de reis is dan nemen we de Sabbat, je dan nog even maar beginnen we wachten met ga je regels en weer te komen met komen, want we smaken weer jaren met man mee. Eerst maar aan met smaak, gaan we dan alleen alcohol is over man mee. Als zo maar maar weer zo alleen alcohol is zo met man mee. Okay, but say Sikkim, it's better to sit for the Sikkim, but if you want, you can stand also. Sikkim and Hallel. We
learned today, Be'ez Hashem, we learned Hallel, Leil Seder is very different than Hallel from Agansiyar. Almost no comparison. It's a Shira, it's a different nature, it's me, it's Bazman Hazeh, not B'yam Mahem, and put an effort because that's called Kol Hoylech Achachitum. The Hallel of the Geula, like Leil Seder, was Meraps and Igra, Nashim Achayev, maybe Afin Hayib Oisei Nes, the same Nes, Nashim Ketano Isa Chayev Al Chinuch. It's a Kriya Dikka, it's a Shira Dikka, not a Kriya. The bulk of the real goal of the mitzvah is Chayev Al Liris as Atzmai, and the whole build-up before and after is to try to feel like we had our personal Bafraying in Tafshin Pei Hey and Tafshin Pei Vav, what every single year, Baleno Toiva. But that's why Lefikach Anachnu Noime Lefanav Lashin Osid Shira Chadosha. It's new this year, last year, next year are all different types of Hallels. It's bursting forth the Hallel Mitzvah. That's why that's one of the reasons no bracha. Besides that, it's a Shira. Asher Galon of Agol Aviseinu. It's kedai to pause before you say those words. The Mishnah that we say in the Agada. Chayev Kol Adam Liras Esatzmai, try to make it at least somewhat real. Chazal believe we could do it as we saw. The stress is Bazman Hazeh, and that makes it much more of a my type of Yomtiv. The Hezbollah, understanding the Yetzias Mitzrayim, that was the first part of Hallel, said in the beginning. The Haidah, the Shevach, the second part that blends nicely with the Nishmas and the Hallel. We saw that some hold the Hallel Pesach by night is a deraisa because it's my personalness. Nashim Achayev, they should say both parts of Hallel. They can't just drink the kois. Some say Nashim Chayev on Hallel and Maariv and Shachris, but Zicha by the Leil Seder. An Oinen, Le'olechem should say Hallel Pesach by night. We saw why it's Dafka night, not day. Punkt Fakir, Dafka night, not day. The Hiddur of Hallel by chatzos is only a Hiddur. It's less of a Chiyuv than the Afikoimin before chatzos, but not at the expense of the Haggadah or the Suda. The Ik is the Simcha, the energy of Mamish Meraps and Igra. We sit, but not with a Seba. Why we say that? When we say the Hallel, most do not hold the kois, some do. There's Indian to have mats on the table, but if there are any off a bench, so keep it there. There should be a zimun of the give and take in Hallel. If you have 3 people, even a cotton could do it. Be concerned about the karlisha. And the ik is the chasima, the different minhagim, and ashreinu that we have this Hallel Yomtov and this Hallel mitzvah. Yes, sir.
The shul kristallich is much more mitzvahs Halel.
That I didn't want to say. Yeah. They ask why wasn't he machman? See, he's right. He said the Goin says you finished the 4th kais also, not just the.
And uniqueness is it's much more the kaschiller.
Yeah. But that's they say, but he didn't.
Chatzos wasn't like the half came before chatzos. Second day.
Not even. No? I think I saw it.
Maybe second day.
But after Kaiman either not.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw it. I saw some Seifa and Chaim Brisker. Maybe. Can sein. Yeah.